Plain and simple, this is genocide. It is deliberate, but we are not completely powerless to stop it. What is happening in Gaza right now is not a war between equals. It is not a conflict, and it isn't Israeli self-defense. It is the systematic destruction of a people, their lives, their land, their history, and their future, carried out in plain sight. Israel is committing a genocide backed by the Western world, counting on keeping international journalists out and killing Palestinian journalists in Gaza who are reporting the truth. It is overwhelmingly targeting women and children, striking not just at the present, but at the future of the Palestinian people. The goal is not just to kill, it is to make Gaza uninhabitable, to crush people's spirits so they flee their land, to destroy the foundations of life, that being food, water, shelter, medicine, community, until survival feels impossible. And when people are forced to leave, that absence becomes the next justification for permanent takeover. This is about Gaza. This is about the West Bank. This is about the Golan Heights. And if history tells us anything, is that this kind of colonial hunger doesn't stop. It keeps expanding. Genocide doesn't just depend on killing people. It depends on hiding it from the world long enough to finish the job. That's why Israel hasn't allowed any independent international journalists into Gaza at all. The very rare journalists they have allowed in are not independent and stay under Israeli military escort. The reporters who join these trips have no control over where they go and are barred from speaking to Palestinians. How are they expected to be unbiased? They're not meant to be. And the journalists already inside Gaza have become targets themselves. Nearly 270 journalists have been killed so far, many of them while actively reporting. That means since October 7th, 2023, Israel has killed more journalists in Gaza than the US Civil War, World Wars I and II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the wars in Yugoslavia in the 1990s and 2000s, and the war in Afghanistan combined. Let me say that again, not separately, combined. These were people documenting mass graves, destroyed homes, starving families, and the bodies of children pulled from rubble. Their work is dangerous because truth is dangerous to a regime committing crimes against humanity and who are counting on the world's ignorance to it. Israel knows the power of images and testimony. Every photo of a lifeless child, every video of a family mourning erodes the lies that this is about self-defense or security. That is why silencing these voices is not an accident. It is strategy. If you're enjoying this video, please like, please subscribe, leave a comment. It does mean a lot. The numbers we are being given are not just incomplete, they are intentionally misleading. The current official death toll in Gaza is often reported around 63,000. But even finding that number is difficult, and almost every independent expert agrees it is dramatically undercounted. First, Israel does not allow any independent observers or investigators into Gaza, which means there is no way to verify the real number of deaths on the ground. Second, the official toll only counts bodies that have been confirmed at hospitals. It does not include thousands of people buried under rubble and never recovered, people who are missing and unaccounted for, people who die indirectly from lack of medical care, clean water, food, electricity, and sanitation. That is why a peer-reviewed study published in The Lancet in mid-July 2024 warned that the true death toll in Gaza, if the war ended that day, could already exceed 186,000 people. The study explains that the official count fails to take into account the thousands of people still under the rubble, as well as the indirect deaths caused by the collapse of hospitals, the destruction of food distribution systems, the spread of disease, and the total breakdown of public infrastructure. Conflicts have indirect health implications far beyond direct violence. Even if the war in Gaza were to end today, thousands more would still die in the coming months and years from preventable disease and hunger. So let that sink in. That means at least 5 to 10% of Gaza's entire population have already been erased, entire neighborhoods flattened, entire families wiped out with no record, people disappearing into rubble never added to any official list. And that number still doesn't capture the full scale of devastation. There are an additional 155,000 Palestinians who have been wounded, many with catastrophic injuries. That means another 10% of Gaza's entire population are now living with amputations, blindness, permanent disabilities, chronic pain, and trauma. These people may have survived the bombs, but they will never be able to live normal lives again. Genocide is not just about killing people. It is about destroying their ability to live, to recover, and to rebuild a future. So when we talk about genocide, we are not speaking in metaphor. We are speaking about the deliberate erasure of an entire people in real time under the watch of the international community. When you look at the numbers, the intent becomes undeniable. Around 70% of the people killed in Gaza are women and children. This isn't collateral damage. It's a deliberate tactic. By killing mothers, Israel is destroying the ability for families to survive. By killing children, it strikes at the future of the Palestinian people. And for those who survive, the blockade of food, clean water, medicine, and even baby formula ensures that malnutrition will claim more lives over time. These are not random tragedies. They are calculated moves in a campaign designed to erase a people, not just in the present, but for generations to come. Killing isn't always done with bombs. Sometimes it's done with hunger. And this crisis is hitting the most vulnerable the hardest. Over 40% of pregnant and breastfeeding women are now severely malnourished, triple the rate in some areas compared to earlier this year. The global acute malnutrition rate has tripled since June in Gaza City and doubled in Khan Yunis and the middle area. In just the first 2 weeks of July, over 5,000 children under 5 were admitted for outpatient treatment of malnutrition, 18% of them suffering from severe acute malnutrition. Specialized treatment centers are overwhelmed. Only 4 malnutrition centers remain functional in the entire Gaza Strip, and they are running out of fuel and supplies. Health workers are exhausted, and the collapse of water and sanitation systems is accelerating the spread of disease. The result is a growing humanitarian catastrophe. Children with protruding ribs and sunken eyes. Mothers unable to produce breast milk because their own bodies are starving. Hospitals unable to treat the sick because they lack even the most basic supplies. Doctors Without Borders reports hundreds of pregnant women unable to feed their babies. Clinics are treating newborns who entered this world already in famine, and yet food is stockpiled at the border, not allowed in. UN aid workers say they have trucks full of supplies ready to deliver, but are blocked by Israeli forces. This is not an accidental shortage. This is not Hamas stealing aid. A U.S. aid investigation completed in June 2025 found no evidence of systematic theft of U.S.-funded supplies by Hamas. Malnutrition doesn't just kill in the moment. It stunts growth, damages developing brains, weakens immune systems, and leaves lifelong health consequences for those who survive. And because it disproportionately affects children, it's an attack on the future, ensuring the next generation will be smaller, weaker, more vulnerable, and less likely to be able to reproduce. Research from famines in the Netherlands and North Korea shows that hunger alters genes, causing permanent damages not just to those who starve, but to their descendants. Even the babies who survive will carry the scars. Even the unborn are being marked by this war. Starvation is a slow, quiet weapon, but it is no less deadly. It's meant to break people physically and psychologically, to permanently alter their future, and to make them believe there is nothing worth staying for. Genocide isn't just bombs and blockades. It's also control. Control over what the world sees and control over how the survivors live. Gaza once had over 400 UN-run food programs delivering aid directly to the Palestinian population. Israel shut all of them down and replaced them with a new aid organization, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Its new director, Reverend Dr. Johnny Moore, an American evangelical pastor who publicly endorsed Trump's idea of the U.S. taking over Gaza and has supported Israeli expansion across Palestinian territories. The UN, Doctors Without Borders, and every major humanitarian organization have refused to work with GHF, citing its military affiliations and complete lack of neutrality. This is not aid. This is colonial control dressed up as charity. The West saying, we destroyed this, now we will rebuild it in our image, on our terms, and we will call it aid and peace. But this is not aid. It is ethnic cleansing, managed through PR. And on the ground, the reality of this new aid system is even more horrifying. A recent Haaretz investigation described Gaza as a killing field and revealed that IDF soldiers have been ordered to deliberately shoot at unarmed Palestinians waiting in line for humanitarian aid. Also, Anthony Aguilar, a retired U.S. Special Forces officer who was working with the U.S. and Israel-backed GHF, resigned after witnessing it firsthand. I witnessed the Israeli Defense Forces shooting at the crowds of Palestinians, he told the BBC. He added that in his entire career, he had never witnessed this level of brutality and indiscriminate use of force against an unarmed, starving civilian population. Meanwhile, Israel continues to escalate its intentions. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has approved a plan to take complete control over Gaza, another step toward the Greater Israel Project. The goal is not coexistence. The goal is total control of the land, and the people of Gaza are seen as the obstacle. This is how a modern genocide works. Kill and starve people, destroy homes, schools, and hospitals, control what the world sees, make survival itself unbearable so that the people finally leave. The same hands that destroy are now dictating who gets to live and on what terms. And this is not just about Gaza. It never was. Israel's leadership has made no secret of its long-term ambitions to take Gaza, to take the West Bank, to take the Golan Heights in Syria, and potentially to keep expanding outward. For decades, Palestinian land has been carved away piece by piece through illegal settlements, through military zones and Palestinian land, through occupation and through displacement. What can't be taken through paperwork is taken through force. In Gaza, they're not just killing people, they're destroying the very possibility of life, flattening homes, schools, and hospitals, bulldozing farmland, bombing water facilities, contaminating wells, making sure that when the dust settles, the land can't sustain the people who live there. The strategy is painfully clear. Kill as many Palestinians as they can get away with. Crush the spirit of those who survive so they'll leave. Target women and children, the future of the Palestinian people, both through direct violence and through starvation. And they're doing it behind walls, without journalists, without witnesses. Again, nearly 270 journalists have already been killed. International media is kept out entirely. Those who try to report from inside Gaza risk being bombed in their homes. often along with their families. This is how settler colonialism works. Remove the people, take the land, erase the history. What we are watching in Gaza is not a conflict. It's just a chapter in a century-long project of ethnic cleansing. What makes this genocide possible is more than bombs and blockades. It is also the silence of the world. Governments, media outlets, and global institutions often frame Gaza as a conflict, as if two equal sides are fighting. They turn away from the real truth. Israel is committing a deliberate campaign of extermination, destroying homes, targeting women, children, and the next generation. International actors allow the blockade to continue. Arms sales flow without question. Aid is filtered through organizations like the GHF, ensuring that assistance strengthens control rather than survival. Journalists are barred, and those who try to report are killed. Every life silenced is a truth buried. Meanwhile, the victims are blamed. Propaganda frames survival strategies as savagery and aggression, obscuring the engineered famine and destruction. The world pretends this is a spontaneous crisis, but Gaza is a planned catastrophe, designed to crush the spirit of a people, erase their homes, and force them to leave. This complicity is not passive. Every delay, every censored story, every blocked aid shipment, every excuse or justification enables the machinery of genocide to continue. And yet, despite the walls, the bombs, and the misinformation, Palestinians are still resisting. They are documenting, sharing, and surviving, refusing to vanish quietly. The global propaganda may be loud, but it is not unbreakable. Action is possible, and the time to act is now. Genocide depends on two things: silence and inaction. That means our voices, our money, and our choices matter now more than ever. Here are ways in which we can contribute to the resistance. 1. Keep the truth alive. Share verified Palestinian voices, footage, and reporting. Follow journalists and aid workers still risking their lives to document what's happening. Break the information blockade. 2. Support direct aid that Palestinians control. Give to trusted organizations with a proven record of getting resources into Gaza and the West Bank, not state-controlled aid fronts. Some groups you can give to are the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund, UNRWA Emergency Appeals, Medical Aid for Palestinians, and grassroots mutual aid networks on the ground. 3. Pressure your government. Call, email, and show up at representatives' offices. Demand an arms embargo on Israel. Demand U.S. funding stop for occupation and settlement expansion. Demand recognition of Palestinian statehood. Demand a ceasefire agreement and for aid to flow in for the people. Public pressure has shifted policy before. Politicians fear voters more than they admit. 4. Boycott and divest. Support the global BDS movement. Boycott, divestment, and sanctions, targeting corporations and institutions profiting from Israeli genocide and occupation. Economic pressure helped dismantle South African apartheid. It works here too. 5. Show up. Join protests, rallies, and community events. The visibility of mass movements protects those on the front lines. Everybody in the street sends a message. The world is watching. 6. Build solidarity everywhere. Connect the Palestinian struggle to other fights against oppression, colonization, and genocide. Solidarity makes the movement harder to isolate and harder to crush. This genocide is not inevitable. Continuing to resist and the refusal to give up by the world and the indigenous population is how every settler colonial state has ultimately failed in the past. Palestinians are still holding their keys, still telling their stories, still dreaming of a normal life in their homeland. The least we can do is make sure the world hears them and refuses to let that dream be destroyed. I just want to say thank you for watching. And if this type of content resonates, please do like and subscribe. Again, I do want to dedicate this video to my Palestinian friends, my Palestinian family members, and again, everybody struggling in Palestine, doing everything they can to survive day by day. The world is with you. Free Palestine.